Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Rebecca Yardley, and on behalf of the Towns County Republican Party, we are happy to have you here as our guest for the Senate District 50 debate. Tonight's event is being hosted at Hightower Creek Vineyard, and we are very grateful for their support of this event. The Senate District 50 debate is in a runoff that will be held on August 11th. Early voting began on July 20th. The two candidates in the runoff are Hatchett and Stacy Hall, the gentleman sitting both to the left and to the right of me. And we hope that by tonight's questions and their answers, you will be able to make a sound decision on who it is that you would like to best represent you down in Atlanta at the Capitol. The rules for tonight's debate are very simple. Each candidate will have 2 minutes to do an opening statement. They'll also have 2 minutes to do a close. Their questions will consist of a 1.5-minute answer with a minute to rebut should they be called out during the debate. If they are in the middle of a sentence, they will be able to finish their sentence before we move on to the next question. By toss of a coin prior to tonight's proceedings, Mr. Hatchett will begin our opening statements, followed by Mr. Stacy Hall, and the questions will alternate in fashion back and forth. So without further ado, ladies and gentlemen, here is the Senate District 50 debate.
Well, thank you guys for having me. This is a beautiful place. Thank you for all the guests in attendance. My name is Hatchett. I'm a follower of Jesus Christ. I'm a conservative Republican. I'm passionate about the Second Amendment. I'm pro-life, but I'm a Northeast Georgian. And, I realized how valuable that was today. Had a tragic loss this morning. I lost my aunt. I got a text message at 3 o'clock in the morning when I was up with my daughter, and I was worried about how campaigning was going to be today. But I'll tell you, Towns County was a good place to be, and the people here are excellent. They're passionate, compassionate, and they're honest people, and it really felt like home. And I'm just happy to be here, and I'm looking forward to answering all your questions tonight. Thank you.
Thank you, Rebecca. Thank you, Betsy Young and the Towns County GOP for putting this event together. It's an honor to be here. First, let me just pass along my condolences to Bo and his family. Sincerely, I know that that is a tough situation to go through. My prayers go out to the family. My name is Stacy Hall, and I am running for State Senate. It is great to be in Towns County. I've been in Towns County quite a bit over the last number of months. I've got so many wonderful relationships here, and it's been an honor to be able to rekindle a lot of long relationships or older relationships and build some new ones. I'm married to Ivy Hall. We were married here in Young Harris about 20 years ago. It'll be 20 years this fall. We've got 2 teenage children. We're a host family for 2 international students from Truett McConnell University as well. I am a Christian conservative Republican. I do believe in the Bible and the Constitution. That seems simplistic, but in most times I think it's spot on. I think we don't need to make things a lot more difficult than that. I've got 29 years of teaching and business experience. I've taught on every level of education. I've really enjoyed working in different areas of business, and I've learned quite a significant amount on how businesses can interact, both good and bad, with government many times. I have a long track record of volunteering in my community. I think that's very important. Long before I sought elected office, I have invested in my community, and the reason I do that is because I have a deep passion and love for my home and my community, where we raise our children, where we invest in our community, where we run our business, and where we worship, and I think that's important. I'm certainly a strong pro-Trump advocate, pro-law enforcement, pro-life, certified by Georgia Life Alliance, a strong pro-Second Amendment supporter. I am the only candidate endorsed by Georgia Kerry, but it's an honor to be here, and I look forward to the debate tonight. Thanks for having us.
All right, gentlemen, so we're going to start out kind of easy tonight. We're going to ease our way into some more difficult questions. You'll find that as a moderator, I have the right policy questions, so there'll be several of those this evening. We'll start out easy to begin with. So, the first question is, your district is comprised of 8 counties across North Georgia. Tell us about your community involvement And how it's prepared you to relate to the constituents of Senate District 50? Okay, Stacy, we'll start with you.
Great, thank you. Well, I think this is an excellent question because I think it goes to the readiness and preparedness of being a state senator. Again, I respect my opponent, but this is something that we're a little bit different on. I have been serving my community long before I ran for office. I am a sitting county commissioner. I'm the chairman of the Hatchett County Commissioner, in tandem to that, I've also served as the chairman of our local hospital, which has taught me a lot about the struggles of healthcare today. But I've been involved with the United Way Board. I've been involved for over a decade with the Fellowship of Christian Athletes. That's something my wife and I are very passionate about. Been involved with the Habersham Water Work Group. Been involved with the Economic Development Council on a number of development projects. Been involved with in coaching youth sports for a long time. My background is in college athletics, and I came up teaching and coaching in high school, and have been taught just a number of them, much to the chagrin of my son. But there have been many opportunities where I've invested in my community, and I think that's important because I've done it long before running for state senate. I don't think state senate is the time to first begin to service. All those experiences that I've had in serving my community has laid different levels of foundations that I can draw upon in understanding how laws in the state level and how regulations and things are done can impact my community, and also understand the needs of my community as I've served in all those different capacities. So I think service has been very important.
Yeah, thank you. You know, I'm very passionate about service as well. I grew up in a household where both my parents were very involved locally. I've tried to be involved locally as much as I could as well. You know, I've early on, and following my parents' footsteps, I've learned to have a servant's heart. And you know, I care about this district, and I try to be a good example for my children. You know, when my wife and I first moved here, we realized that there was a housing issue in several counties in our district, and one of the issues was there was not affordable housing. And so we went out and you know, we decided to purchase buildings, and we made housing that is affordable for people in the district, because that is an issue. And that ties into, you know, rural development, creating jobs. You know, to get people to come into the district to work, you got to have a place for them to live, and that's something we've been trying to do through our business. You know, I'm a member of the Rotary, the local Rotary Club, and you know, I think that's very important. And I look forward to serving the Senate District 50 further if elected.
All right, hold on to that mic because you're next. What do you feel are the most important challenges facing our state, and particularly Senate District 50? And how do you propose to address them?
Well, you know, if you would have asked me this question back in February, my answer would have been a little different. With the coronavirus, you know, one of the biggest issues is getting Georgians back to work. It's getting small businesses up and running again. And, you know, how to address that. I think, you know, Governor Kemp has led the way nationwide in reopening the state. I think the people of Northeast Georgia have done a wonderful job supporting our local small businesses throughout the coronavirus. And it was great to see the community really band together and you know, order takeout and support businesses where they can. And it's, you know, I had a conversation with someone today about how, you know, we live in the best country in the world, and throughout this coronavirus pandemic, we've seen businesses transform and innovate their assembly lines, the way they serve food, and it's been inspiring. And I think that's a testament not only to the country but to the district we live in. And you know, I think one way to make sure that we continue to prosper economically is getting government out of the way of small businesses, and that means decreasing regulation. You know, one thing that I'd really like to see, and something that I'd try to push, is elimination of the payroll tax in Georgia. I think that's an unnecessary tax that hinders small businesses, especially those that are trying to you know, make it afloat right now, and that's something that I'd like to see moving forward.
Mr. Hall?
Well, thank you. As a small business owner myself, and throughout the campaign, I've talked to many small businesses, which are the heartbeat of our communities, and employ so many so many folks in our communities, and they invest in our communities. Several of the issues that they've relayed to me is the difficulty they're having right now in getting supplies, raw materials or other type of supplies for the business. I was visiting a manufacturing plant just yesterday in Habersham County. We talked about this very thing. The need is there, the business opportunities are there, but the supply chain is flooded right now. They're having a hard time getting their supplies. So that's one of the biggest challenges. The NFIB, the National Federation of Independent Businesses, which is the voice of small businesses, has endorsed me in this campaign because they understand my background and my passion dealing with small business and my background in corporate business as well, and understanding those two and how they relate and how they can impact our communities as well as our tax base, because the better the businesses do, the more tax revenue they can bring to the business and the more opportunities we can do from government to provide services. But also, I want to limit government overreach. A lot of times when there's issues or crisis, the government will use it as an opportunity to overreach or overstep. They can limit our freedom, so certainly want to guard against that. But vocational training is something I really want to target. Time and time again, I hear a big need for more vocational skilled workforce. That might be welders, it might be plumbers, it might be electricians, it might be many other things. But we need that workforce, and we need to invest in that. We need to invest in that training, and I'd love to see more opportunities in the high school to get them trained up.
Okay. Well, let's jump to the meat of some of the issues that really affect Senate District 50. And we're going to start with agriculture. Okay? This district relies heavily on agriculture as a means of employment and livelihoods. As you're aware, SB 545, or the Right to Farm Act, was before the legislature this year. This bill died due to amendments by Democrats being introduced into the Senate version and the House not taking it up for reconsideration. The amendments essentially pitted urban needs against rural needs. What is your opinion on this bill, and what would you have done to advocate for its passage? You get to go first.
Okay. Well, agriculture is by far this district's largest industry. This district is made up of 8 counties. 4 of those 8 counties are in the top 10 in the state in terms of farm gate value. So that is significant. And I talk to farmers every day, and every single one of the farmers implore me or impress upon me how important Senate Bill 545 was to them. This bill was defeated according to Georgia Farm Bureau 2020 legislative report. And I quote here that the reason that bill was defeated because of the work that trial lawyers and environmental activists did in working with certain senators to defeat that bill. And I know my opponent doesn't like it when I say that, but that's according to the Georgia Farm Bureau and a number of other senators that I talked to about that. And there was some senators that worked with the Democrats in helping to defeat that bill because they wanted language, they wanted included language that would be able to allow folks 20 miles away to be able to sue farms. And that's certainly not right. So that bill was defeated, and this is something that I'm very passionate about, and as a state senator, I will work in earnest to make sure that's brought back up and that it is ultimately passed and it'll benefit our farmers.
But before you answer that, he did say his opponent, so you get to have that rebuttal time to expound on your statement if you'd like.
Yeah, I would. I think he said that I dislike him saying something about being an attorney, or that attorneys defeated the bill. But I think that the question was spot on. The Democrats defeated this bill, unfortunately. But one thing that I'm aware of, and the experience that I have down at the Capitol is I've seen how good bills are not passed because bad language is thrown into it, or language that doesn't have anything to do with the bill is thrown into it. And you have to be able to play defense for your bill, and I'll be ready to do that when I get down there. But going back to agriculture, Towns County, I think the farm gate value is $4.2 million. Now he's told in 30 seconds.
You're good.
Okay, just making sure. It's $4.2 million, which is a substantial part of the economy here. My granddad had a cattle farm. My dad was raised on it. While I was not raised on a cattle farm, the work ethic and the principles that were instilled in my father at a young age, he instilled in me as well, which is why I am a hard worker, and I'm ready and willing to work hard for Northeast Georgia. I'm ready and willing to fight to get this bill passed in its original language, because every farmer I've talked to is in support of this bill, and I will too, and I'll be ready to stand up against any lawyers or Democrats or environmental groups that step in the way, because this is an important bill, and I'm running to represent Senate District 50.
Stacy, anything you want to add?
Well, yes, please. And I just want to set the record straight because, again, throughout the campaign, I've heard this time and time again when he talks about experience down at the Capitol. I just want to make sure we're honest and truthful with everybody about that experience. We're talking about a 4-month internship with the governor's office and a 4-month internship with the lobbyist group. So I don't want folks to be misled that this is some kind of full-time job or it's been a year or 2 year experience. We're talking about a 4-month internship. And I value internships. 29 years ago, I had an internship, and it was a wonderful experience. And I did learn a lot with my internship, but I think it's a big difference. And it's a little misleading when we talk about that. We need to be honest and say that it was a 4-month internship and another 4-month internship with the lobbyist group. And I think it's just important that folks are aware of that.
Okay, well, I'm not going to walk away from that. Saying you get to expound on that since he's called out your experience.
Yeah, I haven't hidden from any of the jobs or internships that I've had. Stacy himself admitted to going on my LinkedIn page. It's very public knowledge, but I spent eight months down at the Capitol working for some very good people, including Governor Deal, and I don't believe my opponent has spent any time down there. And that's experience that I think is extremely valuable when you want to be a state senator, because there are so many things that you learn when you get to work with those people down at the Capitol, and it's something that the experience that I've had and the lessons that I learned watching bills fail and bills pass. Those are things that I'm going to be able to use on day one to navigate the legislative process and be an effective senator.
Okay. We're not going to spend any more time on this subject.
We're going to go on. All right. In building a vibrant state economy, and I think we all can agree that that's something we want Georgia to have, is a vibrant state economy. How will you work to increase job opportunities for your constituents here in Senate District 50? Bo, you get to start.
I think that starts with workforce development, and it's something I've said from the very beginning. Senate District 50 is uniquely blessed by having some outstanding technical schools throughout the district, and when companies look to bring jobs and to grow the economy, they look at infrastructure. Now, some people think infrastructure is just broadband or land or water, but one of the biggest things that people forget about is a ready workforce. And workforce development, having trained workers in the district is something that's extremely attractive to businesses. And all that being said, we have got to get behind our technical schools because high schoolers right now with programs at North Georgia Tech, which is the oldest technical school in Georgia, can graduate from high school with doing dual enrollment with North Georgia Tech and be ready to go begin their careers as welders, as members of the medical community, different facets of the medical community. And I think that's one thing that can set Northeast Georgia and Senate District 50 apart, because we have the resources here, we just got to pour into them.
And just, Rebecca, just so I'm clear on the question, could you repeat that?
I will be happy to.
Thank you.
In building a vibrant state economy, how will you work to increase job opportunities for your constituents here in Senate District 50?
Well, and again, I think this is a glaring difference between the two candidates here tonight, and that I've got 29 years of experience in education and business. I ran a $115 million division. I managed 85 employees. I'm the only candidate that has worked with the Economic Development Council in building retail projects, development projects. I'm the only candidate that's worked with a lot of these different businesses in my role as chairman of the local government to help them expand. So this is stuff that I've been doing for 29 years. This is not my first time doing this. I'm experienced in growing businesses. I was a manager of the year for a $500 million company. I'm not new to the business environment. I understand the language of different businesses, both small and large. understand the issues that they're going with because I've been there. I'm used to hiring people. I'm used to training people. I've been through the Georgia Academy for Economic Development, and I've gone through a lot of different situations in my role as a county commissioner to help businesses prosper. So this is something that I'm very passionate about. And again, it's one thing to say, hey, I want to do this, but it's another to have done it over and over and over again. And I think the voters recognize that fact. I think the voters would appreciate to have a state senator that's done this, that actually has a track record of helping businesses prosper and grow. And I want to be able to use those 18 years of experience in business and as a benefit to the citizens of our Senate district as well as our state. I know how to get businesses ramped up. I've done it for a living, and I'm very passionate about it. I want to continue to be able to do that as your state senator.
Hold on, because you're still on the hot seat.
We know that economic development and infrastructure go hand in hand. What more do you think needs to be done to improve deployment of rural broadband and enhance current services available in the state? And how will you advocate and work to make that happen?
Well, I just had this conversation very recently with several EMCs, and I know this is very pertinent to Blue Ridge EMC. There was a bill passed, and I believe EMCs are the answer in a lot of ways. I'm going to get more to that more specifically. There was a bill passed in this last session that would regulate poll fees for EMCs. Now, that one of the oddly enough, the group that my opponent interned for was a representative that lobbied for the larger AT&Ts and larger entities that fought to be able to regulate these poll fees. So the Public Service Commission is going to be doing that. That's going to mean $20 million of loss of revenue for EMCs. That means $20 million less investment in your communities to be able to build out broadband opportunities. So that's a big problem. I believe that one of the chief solutions is to be able to allow our EMCs to have allow them to make the investment in the infrastructure. In large part, they've already done that. The infrastructure is there, but we need to help them to be able to kind of get that last mile of fiber to the homes and connect them. But this is certainly a big issue in the state of Georgia, and I want to work to and wrapped up to help solve that. But the EMCs need to be able to have a bigger seat at the table.
Well, this rural broadband question is something we've gotten several times on the campaign trail tour, and it's something that I've heard several times from voters. I can remember a dial-up internet connection and how far we've come from that. Locally we have trail wave, we've got fiber running throughout several parts of the county, but I think during and several parts of the district. But during the coronavirus, I think it was exposed how access to high-speed internet is crippling, and it's causing Senate District 50 to be left behind a little bit. And I think there are several answers. There's not just one answer to this, and there are people involved. I don't know a whole lot about the intricacies of how to run these wires or what the best way to do it, but I'm developing relationships with members of the EMCs, and I've spoken to linemen. I've got several friends that are linemen that have given me their input on what we need to do. And I think we've got to get a lot of people brought to the table in order to find a solution that, like I said, will not leave Senate District 50 behind, because having access to high-speed internet is very important now more than ever, as we've seen.
Okay, now before we move on, Mr. Hall indicated in his response that you had worked with lobbyists in regards to this.
Yeah.
So do you have anything?
I didn't say he worked with them.
You said your opponent.
I said that his lobbyist firm did.
So,
but he's entitled to the.
Is there anything that you would like to expound on?
I'm not a politician, and I'm not going to, focus on that. First, he said I didn't work for them. I lobbied for them, or I interned for them. Then he said I worked for them. But I don't know. I wasn't interning or working for them when that went through, to my knowledge. And I don't think I really want to respond to it.
Okay.
Well, let's move on to a topic that was very front and center during the session this year, and that's the topic of our budget. As we know, the budget was trimmed in the last 10 days of the session by roughly about $2 billion in light of the economic environment that we are currently in. However, there are approximately $5 billion in tax credits currently available to businesses in this state. What tax credits specifically do you think, if any at all, need to be put to a sunset? And we'll start with you, Beck.
You know, this is an issue that I've looked into, and I know there are a tremendous number of tax cuts out there for businesses. You know, Georgia's in a unique position, as you said. We did have to trim a lot from our budget. Luckily, thanks to Governor Deal and fiscally conservative practices, you know, we have a very large rainy day fund. You know, and we're uniquely positioned as opposed to other states in the nation to where we're going to be able to bounce back from this a lot faster. You know, tax credits are very important for business, and I know it draws businesses to the state because they're very attractive. It helps businesses, it helps create jobs. Specifically, you know, like I said, tax credits do help. I wouldn't want to get rid of any at this point if it would hurt the economic growth of the state. However, it looks like we are faced with at a point where those tax credits would help tremendously, and the film industry is one area in which I think those tax credits may need to go to sunset because you know we've helped the film industry out tremendously, and we've attracted them here, and now I think it's time for them to pay their share of the taxes as well.
Stacy?
Sure. Well, this is a great question, and I think we should always be looking at all the tax credits just to make sure that they're tracking the way they should be, and that there's if they need to be adjusted. I will say that specifically to the film industry tax credit, that has been a wonderful bonus to Stevens County in our district. They have been benefited enormously. Does that mean that we shouldn't, look at the formula to figure out the tax credit and see if there's some tweaks we can make to maybe even increase or incentivize more investment? Yeah. So I mean, you should always constantly look at all these different policies to see if we could even do better. And that's something that I would support. But again, my goal will be to use my business experience to help businesses prosper. And I think that's very important. I'm very comfortable sitting in different types of industries because I've worked with different types of industries and helping put a strategy and incentives together at the state level that it can help them thrive, help them expand, help them invest in our communities, help them hire more folks. Maybe they need some more training opportunities. Maybe they need some other logistical help or what have you. But I want to be able to use my 18 years of business experience to work with these businesses all across the state, specifically in Senate District 50, and help them prosper and invest. Because when they prosper, they invest in our communities, and they hire our brothers and our sisters and our uncles and aunts, and all that's good things. So to answer your question, yes, we should look at all of the tax credits to see if we can tweak them to make them better. But certainly want to help grow business.
Okay, so both of you mentioned incentives. So what other types of tax credits would you support to entice or retain businesses in our state, and more importantly, in this district? Stacy, we start with you.
Well, one of the things that I've learned a lot in businesses, businesses want to make money. That's one of the things you can always count on and guarantee on businesses. They want to make money. So you can steer them in different ways if you can help them have an easier time making money. So in Towns County's industry, predominantly the driving force in Towns County is tourism. That's by far the biggest thing. So there are some incentives that we can do to help with tourism. Maybe it's recruiting different, putting a certain amount of tax revenue toward more advertising in outlying areas or in other states to pull folks down here. I know now the hotel motel tax, they get about 40% of that goes toward the chamber typically that is specifically earmarked for tourism development. There are things that we can do within that, and I was a past chairman of Chamber of Commerce, so we work very closely with this. There are things that you can do with that revenue to help do a better job of bringing folks in. Maybe there's some assets or resources at the state level that we can partner with the local Chamber of Commerce to help become more efficient with some of those funds in attracting more folks here. In terms of other type of industries, it really, there's a whole number of things that you could do, and I can't really speak to every one of them. It just depends on the industry, and one of the things I've learned in business is when you ask the right questions of the different businesses, what are they after, what are their needs, what's holding them back, what is their budget cycle, what do they need to do to be able to be successful, if it's training, if it's workforce development, maybe we can incentivize folks at the high school level or incentivize community colleges to partner with the high schools in concert with that employer, and maybe they help design some curriculum in the local high schools or help design curriculum in the community college. So there's just, it really depends on what the goal of the business is, what the need of the community is, and being able to marry those two. And that's the beautiful thing that I've always loved about. Okay, sorry, we got to wait a little bit. Might get carried away. I'm sorry.
All right, Ben.
We might need to start jumping up and down a little bit. Sorry about that. My apologies.
It'd be great if we could give them tax credits for having their employees register as Republican voters. But, I realize that may be unconstitutional. I think there are several avenues where we could expand our tax credit for businesses in Georgia. Buying local Georgia-made goods. Another thing I think would be very important is, with, as I was saying earlier, with dual enrollment with our technical schools, maybe a tax credit if you employ a student in a dual enrollment position. I mean, I would love to see a tax credit for that too, because that not only incentivizes the businesses to have dual enrollment students, but also helps further the development of Senate District 50 and as I said, workforce development. So those are some areas that I would like to see tax credits in.
Okay, well, both of you gentlemen have hit on a topic that's near and dear to my heart, and that's education. So anybody who knows me knows that that's what I do for a living. I work in the field of public education, so that's where our last three questions of this evening are going to take us. Okay? Currently, our State Board of Education and our Board of Regents are appointed by the sitting governor. So we know that as governors are elected, they might not be as conservative as you and I are. And so they might appoint others who are not as fiscally conservative or educationally as conservative as we might think. In light of that fact, would you support our State Board of Education members and our Board of Regents being elected by constitutional district by the public? If so, why? And if not, why not? Bo, we start with you.
Well, as a product of public school education, I benefited greatly from the teachers in public schools. And I think that our state of Georgia has done a great job, and Governor Kemp has done a fantastic job of, supporting education and really working to get teachers their raises. As far as the question goes, right now I think the system is working. I think Governor Kemp and Governor Deal have both done a great job putting people in the right spot. And I really can't speak to whether or not I want to switch it up right now, because the system is working, and I think we should continue to go forward with it for now.
Stacy.
I disagree. I believe in earnest that these folks should be elected because it provides another layer of accountability, and I'll give you some examples. And my daughter's 17 and she's starting to look at colleges, and the cost of college is outrageous. And I know everybody that's put a kid through college recently knows that your taxes, you keep paying your taxes, but then the cost of tuition keeps going up and up and up. And they're building these huge Taj Mahals, and I'm not against my daughter or my son going and getting an education in a nice place. Certainly not against that at all. But I think there is some excessive spending in higher education, and I think some of that accountability could be captured by electing folks. You know, I'm very passionate about education, as you know, Rebecca. I've spent over 12 years in the classroom. I've taught on every level of education, elementary school, middle school, high school. I've taught special needs. I was a full-time college business professor and a college administrator. So I understand public education. I'm a product of public education. I taught in public schools. I've taught in public universities. I've taught in private universities. So I think I'm well versed on education from top to bottom. But we need accountability in our Board of Regents and the Board of Education. And the way to give accountability is through elections. So I would like for everybody in attendance to be able to decide who they want running their universities. And if they don't like how they're being run, then we vote them out. That's the American way.
All right, so our next question, still following the vein of education, is currently our schools are not growing in enrollment numbers. In fact, several counties in this district have seen a decrease in enrollment numbers, or what we in education call FTE, over the last several years. However, we continue to have communities that passed East Blast, which fund the building of larger schools and other building improvement projects. So my question to both of you gentlemen would be, are you in favor of exploring the idea of repurposing East Blast dollars for school systems to use for operational expenses if the local Board of Education would agree to a rollback in the millage rate as a way to offset property taxes and offset senior exemptions? And Stacy, we start with you.
Thank you. Offsetting senior exemptions is a really big issue because I hear about it all the time. And I'd like to do more of that. I am absolutely in favor of East Blast having some more flexibility to be able to offset property taxes. I think that's a great idea. And so I would certainly hope that, and I would advocate for, that the next session brings that up. I'm in favor of local control. Home rule. I'm in favor of local folks deciding how their local community wants to be run. And if local communities decide they want to East Blast, then I would be in favor of them having more flexibility in how that is spent. There are a number of communities throughout the state of Georgia that are having a decrease in enrollment. And the way that the limitations are set up for East Blast right now, these local school systems are absolutely mandated to be able to spend that money on capital expenditures. Well, you know, if let's say the property tax or the tax digest declines as well because of decline in business or decline in population, then their operational budgets are going to be in trouble. So why would we not provide them with more flexibility if that's what the community wants? I would be in complete favor of that. I think it's a great idea.
Yeah, no, this is a very good question. And, for me, East Blast is a local issue. And, the local boards or local county commissions have control over that. As a state senator, there's not a whole lot you can do for local issues. Some of you may not know, local issues have to be brought on the House side. And so any bill that's introduced in the state legislature regarding local control would have to come from the House side and work its way over to the Senate. Stan Gunter, who is running to be the next state representative, is someone who I've already developed a relationship with, and I'd be willing to, if he called me and said, hey, I've talked to local boards and they want to do this, I'm all for local control, and I'm all for working with them to get the bills passed that need to be passed for the district.
Okay. And our last question of the evening finalizes education. Both of you gentlemen tonight have discussed dual enrollment programs. And I believe very much that our dual enrollment programs in the state are extremely important. I say that because my youngest daughter, Peyton Grace, through the dual enrollment programs that have been offered, has been able to get her certified nursing assistant and be able to work in a nursing home the last 6 months as a product of that. So it's given her a tangible job application that she can take into the workforce. However, a lot of our school districts do not utilize the dual enrollment programs that are offered. What would both of you do to advocate with our technical programs within this district to get the 8 counties more actively engaged and involved in dual enrollment programs in the technical vocational field that would allow our students to be work ready the day they graduate and go into real life? Okay? So that's the question.
All right.
And we'll start with you.
Well, my grandma taught public school for 35 years, and public school has always been very important in my family. I went to public school. My kids are going to go to public school. And with the dual enrollment programs that you talked about, I have friends that I went to school with that took advantage of it, that are linemen, that are welders, and it's very, it's a wonderful blessing to have that in this district. One thing for sure that could inspire some businesses to help participate is the tax cut I was talking about, or the tax credit I was talking about. But I think what we need to do more than anything is to educate the business owners, to encourage them to do this, because it's a wonderful program, and they can take the opportunity as Northeast Georgians to help the next generation along, to help prepare the next generation for to have careers. And not just education, but a career, and have a skill set that can put them on a path to make a good living. I'm running to make this district a place where my kids can raise their kids, and I'll do everything I can to further that by participating with the dual enrollment and anything I can to help.
Okay. Stacy?
Thank you, Rebecca. I love dual enrollment. My daughter will be in the 12th grade this year, and she's been doing enrollment since 10th grade, and my son will be doing dual enrollment. It is a wonderful blessing, and I'm absolutely all for it, and love to see kids do it through vocational or community colleges and do some vocational training as well. I think the answer to your question is I'd love to see more employers get involved in the process, because there's a disconnect sometimes with kids in school, in that they may not have found their path yet, right? They haven't found their calling yet, so they're not as motivated because they don't see the relevancy to them. Sometimes we need employers to be involved in the educational process to help relay the relevancy to education. And once kids are able to find the relevancy and then become motivated toward their path, the lights go off and they're excited and the teachers get excited, and who knows what's going to happen after that. Everybody's off. So I applaud the state of Georgia for allowing dual enrollment. As you know, they capped some of the hours that you've got this year. I still think it's a great program, and I understand why they did the cap, because a lot of these kids were spending so much money on this program that need to go to other resources. So I'm very grateful for it. I do want to correct one thing that was said earlier, that county commissioners are involved with East Bloss. County commissioners don't have anything to do with East Bloss. That's the school boards. So it's just a point of record.
Well, that concludes our questions for tonight's debate. We'll now allow both of these gentlemen to have 2 minutes for their closing argument. By flip of the coin prior to tonight's proceedings, Stacy, you will start with this 2-minute close.
Thank you. Well, first, let me thank everybody for being in attendance, and for everybody that's watching at home for this debate. I certainly appreciate your attention to the matter. My name is Stacy Hall. I'm running for state senate. I'm very passionate about where we live. I'm very passionate about this community. I love this community. I chose to raise my kids here. I chose to invest here. I worship here. And I want to use my 29 years of experience, 12 in education, 18 years in business, to pour into my community, to pour into my district, to help improve the area that we all love and we live in. And I think it's important. It's one thing to have a heart for service, and I applaud that. Fantastic, that's great. But it's another to have a heart for service and then have the experience and the track record to back things up. My experience in education, business, and in local government and rural health care, I think would be a tremendous asset to the folks and people in Senate District 50. Serving as a chairman of a local hospital at a time where rural hospitals are under siege all across America, and especially in rural Georgia, I think is incredibly important. Because I can use that experience, that internal knowledge, to be able to work with state legislators to pass meaningful legislation that can help improve our hospitals that serve all of us. I think my experience in working with local municipalities and local county government has been a tremendous blessing and a tremendous learning opportunity for me over the last 3.5 years as I've worked on a number of different community projects, real projects, not things I've read about, not things I'm hoping to do, but things I've actually done. So I'm just asking all the folks in this district to vote for me because clearly I have a proven track record. I'm a proven conservative leader in this community. And I want to be able to use those lessons that I've learned and that track record of getting things done to be able to benefit our district. So I appreciate your consideration, and I'm asking for your vote for August 11th for State Senate. Thank you.
Well, thank you again for allowing me to be here to beautiful evening, and this is a great venue. I didn't get too far into the introductions earlier, but my name is Bo Hatchett. I'm married to a beautiful wife. Her name is Ashley. We have 2 daughters, Allie and Hazel, and I'm running this race for them. I'm running this race for our district. 2 years ago, when Stacey Abrams almost beat Brian Kemp, practically running as a socialist, I was scared. I was disgusted. There's a socialist wave coming out of Atlanta that and socialist groups and organizations, extreme liberal groups and organizations that are trying to take away our rights. There are 2 Georgias. There's Atlanta, and then there's Georgia. And we're in Northeast Georgia, and Senate District 50 is a special place. And I don't think socialism has any place in American politics. And I will use my legal education. And my love of the Constitution, my knowledge of the Constitution, to stand up for your rights, to protect any bills that may tread on those rights. And that's why I'm asking you, as your state senator, to vote for me. You're electing us to go down to Atlanta to, read, interpret, write, and vote on laws. And I believe that my legal training will equip me to do that best, especially with my background with the Constitution. We've got a lot of challenges in Atlanta, and I'm ready and willing to go fight for you. If you trust me and you elect me, I'll do that. Thank you.
My name is Rebecca Yardley, and on behalf of the Towns County Republican Party, its wonderful chairman, Ms. Betsy Young, we want to thank you for joining us for the Senate District 50 debate. And we want to thank our sponsors, Hightower Creek Vineyard, for getting us this lovely location by which to do this. And I want to thank both Mr. Bo Hatchett, Mr. Stacy Hall, for joining us this evening. I also want to thank both of you for putting yourselves up for public service. It's not an easy task, and there's something to be said for people who will put themselves out there to do that. And also remind our viewers who are watching this that our runoff election is August the 11th. Early voting began yesterday, July 20th, and if you want your voice to be heard in Senate District 50, I encourage you to get out and vote. Thank you so much for joining us, and good night.
Thank you.